Hi, this is Hank reporting from Kyiv, and this is my update on Russian-Ukrainian war. Let's see what happened around Ukraine in the last 24 hours. New attacks on Kyiv and Kharkiv. Drone attack stats for October. How much land Ukraine had lost. US military package to Ukraine. Ukraine's income and debt. Official announcement from North Korea. Blind soldier gives eyes on Halloween. Summary and new records of Russian losses. Okay, let's take a look at what happened in Ukraine over the past couple of days. This night, as always, Shahed attacked Ukraine en masse. After the debris fell, an apartment on the 15th and 16th floor of a residential building in Kyiv caught fire and the rescue service had to evacuate people. Fortunately, no one died and one person was injured. In total, it was said that debris and fires were recorded in 6 districts of Kyiv today. Next, I'll show you a video with sound. You can see at the beginning of the video how this house is burning and another Shahed continues to fly further directly over the houses at an ultra-low altitude. This happens every day. This place where the house is burning is about 3 miles or 5 kilometers from my house. It can be assumed that the danger exists specifically for the upper floors, but as statistics show, it's impossible to predict where exactly the debris of the drone itself will hit, since we have already seen destruction on the first floors and above. You can also imagine how difficult it is to shoot down these drones when they fly literally between houses. We cannot immediately shoot at them so as not to hit the house, and the Russians are looking for such breaches in our air defense. In Kharkiv, 2 Russian missiles flew into the police station. As a result of the attack, 1 policeman was killed, another 30 police officers and 4 civilians were injured. Kharkiv is unlucky to be located close to the border, from where we still cannot get Russian bombers with our air defense systems. This is certainly another classic terrorist attack, and it is sad to imagine that this has become the norm. As someone said, if an event is repeated, then soon everyone gets used to it and it considers the new norm. So this is a new norm in Ukraine. October is over. It was a tough month, and let's sum it up. I have collected statistics on drones and losses of territory, so let's start with the drones. As you can see from the graph, this was a record for the number of drones that Russia launched against us in a month. As we said earlier, they increased the production several times, exceeded their plan, and in addition, Iran began to supply them with semi-finished drones, which they completed in Russian factories and thus reduced production times. This is all very bad news for us. In total, the Russians launched 2,077 drones in October. This number includes classic Shaheds with a warhead weighing about 110 pounds or 50 kilograms in TNT equivalent. One unit costs Russia in the range of $200,000 to $400,000, depending on the size of the batch ordered. Also, Gerbera drones with a reduced warhead weighing 22 pounds or 10 kilograms. There is little information about them on the internet yet. They are cheap, only about $10,000 a piece. Low quality, but because of this they can be built faster and in bigger quantities to distract our defense systems. The more targets of different sizes and speeds, the more difficult it is to keep the track of them all. Of the 2,077 drones launched, we were able to shoot down 1,150 pieces and land another 715 with the help of electronic warfare. A total of 1,865 drones, which is 89.8%. This is a very high result in any case. Another 28 drones flew beyond the borders of Ukraine to Belarus, Lithuania, Romania, and also crossed the border of Moldova. It is funny to say, but of all the countries, only Belarus shot down these drones. In such a strange way, only Lukashenko helps shoot down Putin's drones, while NATO countries are afraid to actively respond to these threats. In total, 155 drones reached their targets. This is 7.5% of the total, 2 times lower than 14-15% of hits declared by the Russians, which I mentioned earlier. But still, 155 hits is a lot. These are people's lives. I don't know what will happen next, but the trend is bad. They are producing more and more of them. Now let's move on to another important value, the amount of territory lost in October. On this map I have marked the situation as of October 1. In just 1 month, Russia has occupied approximately 320 square miles or 515 square kilometers of our land. Let's compare this with what it looks like as of October 31. Again, on a country's scale, this may not look too much. Someone may think that this is an insignificant amount of land compared to how many people and equipment the Russians have lost. We will analyze these numbers further. But every lost mile is something that will have to be recaptured, and it's unknown how much it will cost us. In total, the current Russian offensive has been counting down since August 6, and they have taken from us 712 square miles or 1,146 square kilometers of our land. We have lost small towns, lost villages and production, natural resources and thousands of lives. This is a monstrous price. Analyst Volan calculated how many percent of our country has been occupied by the Russians since the beginning of the war in 2014. At the moment, Putin has invaded 7 regions of Ukraine out of 24 existing ones. Over the entire 10 years of the war, he has captured 69,458 square miles, or 111,782 square kilometers of our land. This is 18.52% of the entire territory of Ukraine. This is a huge area that could fit several small countries. Of those regions that have common border with Russia, there are only 3: Donetsk, Luhansk regions, and Crimea, where it all began in 2014. Crimea is 100% occupied. Luhansk region is 98.97%, almost completely, and Donetsk region, which is of great importance due to its rich reserves of natural resources and connects Russia with Crimea by land, is 64% occupied. Zaporizhia and Kherson in the south have 72% each, but they do not have such a sacred meaning for Putin. But my native Donetsk region does. And despite the ocean of spilled blood, Putin will need at least 2 years of continuous attacks as now to capture it completely. We can assume that this is his favorite target of a special military operation today, since he was unable to take all of Ukraine. The question is whether he has enough strength to attack for 2 more years in a row, and whether we have enough strength to hold the line. I do not want to end this blog on a negative note, so I'll insert here a message from Stanislav Bunyatov, an officer of the Aidar battalion. He writes his impressions directly from the front. He has authority among the military and has 275,000 subscribers. The following is a literal translation of his message today. Panic moods and despair will not lead us to positive changes at the front. Every failure should motivate us to unity and help the army. I do not believe in the total collapse of our front. Something is being prepared, and judging by the cyclicality of this war, global. Maybe it's my wet dreams, but experience and some visible moments suggest otherwise. During the ongoing active offensive of the Russians, and today General Syrski reported that this is one of the most massive attacks since the very beginning of the invasion and entry of North Korea in our war, the United States announced a new package of military aid to Ukraine under the PDA program, which means that this will be previously produced equipment from the Pentagon warehouses. This package is estimated at $425 million. I counted more than 13 items. We have already seen all of them before. Nothing new appeared on the list. But what is interesting is that this aid package will include more than 200 Stryker IFVs, which we are already successfully using on the front. This will certainly help. As always, I'm grateful for any help. Every 20 or 40-year-old IFVs save the lives of our soldiers, and air defense missiles save the lives of civilians. The link to the detailed list of the package will be below this video. On the last day of October, the Ministry of Finance of Ukraine published data on the financial statistics. I will convert the figures into dollars at the current exchange rate so that you can understand them better. Today, for $1 we pay a little more than 41 Ukrainian hryvnia. It was 25 before the invasion started, and it used to be 8 for a long period of time before the war started in 2014. So in October we have received a profit from the customs of $1,317 million. And this is 13% less than planned. From internal taxes, the country earned $1,680 million, and this is 0.5% more than planned. I remind you that now we are increasing our taxes to support the army and infrastructure. From the sale of military bonds to us, ordinary Ukrainians, the country was able to receive another $2,609 million. This is the money that we invest in our army at 20% interest in a year. This money had nothing to do with donations, and this amount is a record for the entire time since the beginning of the invasion. In total, Ukraine was able to bring $5,609 million to its budget only with the help of internal resources. External aid is the same financial aid packages for Ukraine that you hear about in the news. $1,100 million from the International Monetary Fund and $300 million from Canada. I try to tell this story as simply as possible because no one wants to hear about the economy, but for example, buying bonds is a very important point because I was told several times like, we feed your entire country and you only live on our taxes. I see a huge number of people who give everything they earn to support their country now, and I believe in such people. At the end of the year, I want to summarize the statistics of how much of my personal money I donated and how much I collected from my subscribers to support our army. Thanks to everyone who helps us with this. In the picture, you can see the change in the state debt of Ukraine, how much it has decreased. At the end of September, our total debt was $155 billion. This includes the loans that our countries give us. For example, on average, we receive such loans for a period of 11 years. As I said, let's solve the problems on credit, but give us more opportunities. Sell us more weapons, and after the victory we will pay on the expense of the aggressor who will pay for the war at the expenses of Russia and North Korea. Lol. After the war is over, they will restore what they destroyed and pay those who suffered. Damn it, I want to receive compensation for the fact that they are actively trying to kill me every day for at least 32 months now. With this money, I plan to travel with presents to all the countries that helped us. North Korean Foreign Minister Choi Son-hee officially stated the following at the meeting with Russian so-called diplomats, quote, "From the very beginning of the war in Ukraine, esteemed comrade Kim Jong-un gave instructions that we, without paying attention to anyone, consistently and powerfully support and provide assistance to the Russian army and the Russian people in their holy war." Well, if we don't focus on the fact that they are all idiots and their so-called holy war is nonsense, then I want to tell you about an interesting thing that I learned. The international community of investigators from Nepal drew attention to the concept of etology in the West strategy to pacify an aggressor. In simple terms, this is a scientific explanation of why in the wild we can pacify an animal that is defending its territory or simply afraid, but in a human environment this doesn't always work. But what works is called the appetite for an aggressor. When an aggressor aims to conquer someone, then a policy appeasement, not sharp rebuff, actually spurs his desire. When an aggressor feels impunity, he expands his actions. Using Russia as an example, we see that in 2014 the world reacted very weakly to the annexation of Crimea and continued to trade with Putin. In 2021, when the Russians gathered 200,000 soldiers on our borders, we could not get powerful weapons to show the Russians the possible price of invasion. In 2022, when the full-scale war has already begun, world leaders are still very cautious and trying to play de-escalation with someone who has no boundaries. Thus, Putin only sees that he can do whatever he wants, and his limitations are only in the number of missiles and shells. Sanctions do not shoot down missiles, unfortunately. I wonder how the world will ultimately react to the fact that North Korea is now fighting against us. Let's wait and see. While I was writing the text, a photo of this poster appeared, which is being dropped on our positions. The North Koreans are offering the Ukrainians to surrender and are writing how to say it in Korean. It seems these idiots understand Ukraine even less than the Russians. Good luck meeting our armed forces face to face. Halloween is over. Honestly, I didn't follow how Ukrainians celebrated this holiday because I generally avoid the fun during the war, but I came across this video. It's funny and sad at the same time. In the video, a Ukrainian soldier who lost both eyes due to an explosion hands out candies to everyone in the center of Kyiv. The video is captioned, "Happiness can be found even in the darkest times." It's so bittersweet, but I really like that he can make fun of this terrible injury. In this photo, you see Vladislav after his surgery. He served as a sapper and lost both eyes in the war, but didn't lose his spirit. I will leave a link to his Instagram if you're interested. Let's move on to our favorite statistics. The Ukrainian airborne troops published number of destroyed Russian equipment in the north. This doesn't apply to other territories where fighting is taking place, only the Kursk region of Russia. From August 6 to October 31, our paratroopers destroyed 7,980 Russian soldiers, meaning killed and seriously wounded who will not return to duty. Also 268 units of heavy equipment such as tanks and infantry fighting vehicles, 136 artillery guns, 3 combat helicopters, Pay attention to the figure of 9,874 FPVs. These are the drones that we landed with the help of electronic warfare and shot down in flight. Almost 10,000 drones, and this is impressive. The bottom line is prisoners and trophies. Officially 297 prisoners, but I remember for sure that the figure was 3 times higher at the beginning of this operation. Let's wait, maybe the details will appear. We have shown the world that Putin's red lines are drawn with a pencil. He's afraid to use nuclear weapons and he has nothing to escalate with the situation with except the North Koreans. I don't know what losses we have in the Kursk region, but everyone agrees that this is a very successful operation both from a military and political point of view. Russian losses in October. And we have 3 new records. Analyst Roman Shrike calculated all the statistics of our Ministry of Defense and found out that in October the Russians lost a record 41,980 soldiers, not counting those who died in hospitals. The second record is 923 armored vehicles, which include armored personnel carriers, BRDMs, IFVs and other similar vehicles. They are painted here in orange. The third record is 2,483 cars, which includes everything from buggies to trucks. Of course, this situation is both good and bad for us. The good thing is that we destroy them more and more effectively if the numbers go up. The bad thing is that they increase the pressure of our defense if the numbers go up. I can only hope that we will keep holding the line. And these figures are for the first day of November. We have destroyed another 1,270 occupiers, and the total today is 687,680 soldiers who could live peacefully in their own country. In a few days we will cross the 700,000 mark. It is hard to imagine that so many families agreed to lose their sons, brothers, fathers for the sake of who knows what. Imaginary greatness, pride in their president, rubles that continue to depreciate every day. I just can't understand, and this once again emphasizes how different we are. Today, air raid alarm lasted for about 12 hours. I kept receiving messages about the danger of Shaheds and heard gunfire. Not a very pleasant situation. The news reported that we successfully attacked a Russian oil refinery in the city of Ufa, which is 900 miles or 1,500 kilometers from our border. To be honest, I'm tired of talking about each oil refinery. It's always dark, the fire is burning, Russians are running, screaming. As I said today, if an event repeats itself, you get used to it. In Moscow, Russians have stretched nets over the oil refinery to avoid attacks. Let's see how this will help them. It looks like a challenge for us. There is very good news that the Tilovaki team and I have closed the collection of $2,400,000 for the purchase of electronic warfare for the Azov Brigade, and this will save many lives. I'll tell you about this later. Otherwise, all the processes continue and I'm thinking about how to make these videos better. Perhaps when the weather gets worse, this will be the only thing I'll be filming until spring. If you want to support the development of this channel, all the links are in the description of the video. Thanks to everyone who watches and writes. I hope you are doing well wherever you are. Take care and I hope to see you tomorrow.